Welcome to Conspiracy Cuisine Podcast, live at Mannings Restaurant.
Clayton, North Carolina.
Clayton, North Carolina. And I'm going to get the sponsors right out of the way because the show is going to be ridiculous.
We need to do this.
Instill Distilling Company, maker of the finest rums in North America. And Whiskey Ware, WARE.com, whiskey.ware.com, making premium real whiskey glasses at an affordable price. Anyway, I don't even want to talk about the sponsors so much right now. I want to talk about Mannings Restaurant in Clayton, North Carolina. One, if you've never been to Clayton, North Carolina, it is a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
A diamond in the rough. Absolutely diamond in the rough. Today we're going to talk about grits.
We're all about grits.
Man, and Southern cuisine. So for all you food nerds out there, which it's the only people that listen to this podcast are food nerds.
Or we hope to make some food nerds, right?
Or we hope to make some food. We're going to be talking about all about grits, but first, Howard, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, brother,
for allowing us to.
Man, love to have you guys. I swear, it's just great to get on here and talk about grits, man. I love it.
Well, I want to talk about your menu too. You know, like obviously we're here about grits. Howard Manning is the owner of Mannings, and he's got a menu item on here called shrimp and grits.
Yeah. Which we're going to talk a lot about.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into the guts of how you make your grits. We're going to talk about your menu. We're going to get into things. And we did some research on grits. We went grits.
Yeah, we went grits crazy. I've been cooking grits for the last 3 weeks. My kids love it. My kids are now obsessed with grits.
Yeah.
That's good. Cheesy grits, man. My daughter can't get enough of them.
Yeah.
I like them plain, man. If you get a good source, you know, if you have grits from a good place like Howard here has.
100%.
Bam.
100%. Howard, one, thank you. Two,
Yeah, thank you, sir.
The reason why we've chosen to do this show here is because Southern cuisine is important, right? And typically when you think about Southern cuisine, we're broken down into categories. When you're traveling through the South, Joe's from the North. But when you travel through the South, restaurants are broken down kind of by they single things out. So a barbecue restaurant would serve barbecue, right? A lot of fried chicken and barbecue. An oyster bar just serves oysters. Go down the line of Southern cuisine, and that's normally how I get. What's different about your restaurant is that you've taken all the Southern cuisine and put it all on one menu.
Right.
So that's pretty interesting. How did you come up with that menu?
Yeah, like there's
Tell us
so
about
many
this
things
menu
on
before
your
we get
menu
into this
that
grits
like
thing.
are unique, right? You've got just things on there that scream you really put a lot of time into it. So why is that?
Just over my career and the different places that I've worked and the different menus that I've worked on, I've just been inspired for each one. And I just took my favorite dishes from not really each place, but just each time in my life and just put them all on the one menu, you know, and then added some awesome, amazing steaks and great fresh local seafood. Best thing, you know, if you take and find the best thing that you can find, the people want it. I mean, when you put that scallop down and they see it and then they cut it and it's so tender and soft and they're like, man, where did you get that? How did you give me this for $11? You know, and you're at the grocery store and you're trying to, why?
Yeah.
You know, just come here and
the thing is, man, is you and I, like during the pre-podcast interview, we were talking about how you can tell when a chef and his staff or her staff cares. And like when I looked at your menu prior to this and doing research, I read every single word on your menu and I was like, this fucking guy cares. He cares. And you can taste that. You leave a restaurant. You were saying something to the effect of that, right?
Right. I mean, you can feel it when you're in a restaurant, whether they care or not.
Uh-huh.
You know, the knowledge. When you ask them what the cheesecake of the day and they're like, well, hold on, I'll be right back.
Right.
They should know that stuff. You know,
That's right.
Before
Yes, sir.
pre-ship, your soup of the day, your special of the day, your sandwich, whatever it might be, know about it, taste it. When that server's tasted something, you know they tasted it.
That's right.
You know, I mean, you know when they're selling it, they don't even have to sell it to you. Their face lights up. The smile on their face is just ridiculous.
You know, the culture of this restaurant, being in Clayton, North Carolina, which bold move, by the way. You could have picked a lot of places to put a restaurant of this caliber, and you chose Clayton, which is crazy. Because Clayton, for the listeners who don't know about Clayton, it's a very small town. in rural North Carolina.
It's on the up and coming.
Just outside of Raleigh, way south of Durham, west of Wilmington. So we're kind of in an awkward spot here. And this restaurant, did you think it was going to thrive when you opened it here?
You know, I did numbers. I knew what I could do. You know, I knew it had. I didn't have quite this potential in mind. You know, it's just every year it just amazes me to see the numbers and just been able to. It all runs off a team. You know, you can do so much, and you doing your own company know that. I mean, you get in there and you grind every day, and you get them out of the way, and you do this, and you got to do it like this, and you're so hard and so rough on them, and you think you're being too tough, but you don't fucking care because you got to get your point across.
You got to get after
it. You know what I mean? And once they see that you're going to do it, and he's doing it, he's taking care of it, and he's got his heart into it, then all of a sudden they fall into place. And then all of a sudden you've got this group of people trying to accomplish the same goal, and they can't stop you.
They can't. You know, the culture of the restaurant is kind of what brought us here to you. Being foodies, being food nerds, that's what this podcast is all about, how to be a foodie and getting excited about food. And we talk about scene foodies versus home foodies, right? Yeah. So two different types of people. We're kind of both. We're scene foodies. We like to go to restaurants. We like to evaluate the service. We like to evaluate the food that's enjoyable to us. We like to take pictures of that. We're also home foodies. We like to cook on our own. And so we bring a little bit of both of that into our podcast, right? Brother. So when you come to Mannings, when I talked to your staff, unbeknownst to you, I talked to your staff months before we decided to do this. And one of the things that I heard more than once was Howard outworks every single person in this restaurant.
See, in that foodie podcast that we did, and actually the first 3 that we did, the quintessential ingredient to a good dish that I say as a chef is humility, right? And a leader needs to be part of good food on the professional level. And that's why we're here. We didn't tell you about this in the pre-podcast because we didn't want to blow you up, man. We wanted to give it to you in the moment. You're humble, brother.
Yeah.
And we like that.
And your staff owns it. And the culture in your restaurant is something that the whole town talks about. When you come in here, you feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You feel like you're part of Mannings Restaurant. When you come and you serve my table,
that's right,
and you come over there, it's super funny because you can tell when I've been in here eating, doing some pre-podcast studies, watching people. Some people don't even know you're the owner because you're bussing their table.
Do you do that on purpose, brother?
No, it's just what you just don't stop. If you see something, it's subconsciously you do it, and then it's just the quicker that table's open, that you can get a new person and they're not sitting there watching a dirty table. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when you're walking back to the kitchen and that busboy is not on task or flirting or doing something he's not supposed to, they see you. You know what I mean? And they're like, it gets them, it snaps them, and then all of a sudden they're doing it. And then the next person's doing it. And it just feels good.
It feels good when you're sitting at a table, and I'm a business owner in the same town. But when I come to Mannings, it doesn't matter if I'm a business owner or if I'm a Joe Puhawk coming into Clayton. Howard's going to be at your table, and he's going to make you think that you're VIP. Because he's at everybody's table, and he goes table to table. And sometimes at my bar, I hear people say, "Oh yeah, we just ate at Mannings." Oh yeah, and Howard, he comes by. We know Howard, man. He comes by and talks to us at the table.
That's the way it should be,
man.
But
that's an amazing feeling when an owner takes the time to address every single table. And you don't address it as an owner; you address it almost as an employee level. Like I'm who I am. I own Instill Distilling Company, and Howard knows who I am. But when he comes to my table, it's not Eric Tanzi who owns Instill Distilling Company. He comes to my table and he's like, hey, can I take this fork from you? Can I take this plate from you? I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel terrible. Like, you're the owner of Mannings.
It's so funny. I don't know why people, exactly. I don't know why people feel like that. You know what I mean? It's great. I'm glad they feel like that. But I mean, it's just, at the same time, you're just doing your job.
It's a humbleness, though, that you bring to the culture. It's phenomenal.
Eric and I, in the past few recordings we talked about how, like, during my stage, when I was doing my apprenticeship and whatnot, some of those chefs in those like bougie ass places, they get this God complex and they treat everybody poorly, and like they don't come out to the table side, they don't get their hands dirty, and they separate themselves. Whereas here at Conspiracy Cuisine, we're all about that, man. Like, you getting in it, like, you're not afraid to bust a table, are you? Hell no. You're not afraid to go back there and peel potatoes, are you?
I can't. If I can't do it, I'm not going to ask you to do it,
man. That right there is gold.
Should have been a podcast on leadership, to be honest with you.
Yeah. We could get into it like some of these leaders. Those intense people that get in.
So one of the things that your menu is awesome, and the ribs are the best ribs I've ever had. The steak, I have a phenomenal story, but I'm going to save it for the end of the podcast because I want to jump into this really quickly.
Shrimp and grits, man.
The shrimp and grits. But one of the coolest things on your menu, it's everything's the coolest thing on your menu, but the shrimp and grits to me is a lot of people around town talk about your shrimp and grits, which I'm always stunned because I'm like, have you had his steak? Have you had his ribs? Have you had his crab cakes?
A lot of people get stuck, man. I don't know why they get bogged down. They'll get the pork sliders, and they'll get the pork sliders, and they'll get the ribeye egg rolls. Have you have you tried just hit them with different dishes every time? The cup of the gumbo, you can get a rib appetizer, a gumbo cup, and a Cajun dusted scallops, bro. And split it up. And once you get them off of that, if they ever jump off that ledge, dude, they're like, oh shit, how would I love that? But then they'll get hooked again. You know what I mean? So you just gotta keep going. There's nothing bad on there. That's why,
nothing. And there's nothing bad on there. And the hardest thing about coming to Mannings is trying to figure out what I'm going to try next because I'm afraid because the ribs were so, like when I started out as a rib guy here at your restaurant. And the second time I came, I wanted the ribs. It was all I was thinking about. But I have a rule. I have a rule that I don't try the same thing twice. Right. I have to go through the whole menu.
Stuck in that box.
But I told you, and I'm going to tell a story. I was going to wait till the end of the podcast. I'm sorry, folks. We're going to get into grits. But I came in here and one of your staff members, which by the way, your staff members stick around longer than almost any staff I've ever seen at a restaurant. I mean, I've been coming here for like 6 years and it's like the same waiters over and over and over again. Sure. Which is awesome, right?
Oh, yeah, man.
They love it here. They're always happy. I mean, we came in early this morning and everybody was stoked to be here. People were singing and like there was a girl like humming and juicing limes or something.
In all positions, man. From prep to the line and everything.
But anyway, so I told the guy, I was like, look, man, I love your ribs and I really want to get the ribs right now, but I have to try something different. It's my rule. But I need something. I'll tell you what, if you can pick something that's better than the ribs or just as good as the ribs on this menu for tonight, because I need quality, I'm in the mood for it right now, I will give you $50 extra on the tip.
Pressure.
I will give you $50 extra. Whatever you pick, I will give you $50 extra. If it's not as good as what the ribs are, you lose. I still tip you the 20%, but you're going to lose the extra $50.
Bam.
And the guy didn't even think about it. He was like, steak.
And I was like,
bro, I was like, bold move. I was like, bold move. Listen, I've had a steak everywhere in Raleigh, everywhere in the Triangle.
Yeah, some of the best places.
All the best. I've had them. And I was like, I have avoided the steak here because it's not a steak restaurant. It's not a steak house, right?
That's right.
And we have a steakhouse in Clayton. And I said, I'm going to give you one more opportunity. Like, there's a lot of stuff on this menu. What do you want to pick? He was like, the steak. And I was like,
damn right.
All right. And I was ready to eat it up. I was ready to be like, man, it was a good steak, but it wasn't better than the ribs because the ribs are perfect, by the way. The steak was perfect. And I will say, hands down, I tell everybody,
how did you get it cooked? Go ahead.
It was medium rare. Medium rare, of course. And the diamonds were perfect. Everything was perfect about the steak.
Diamonds.
God, you.
Yeah, you know,
talk about diamonds.
You know what I'm talking about? When you get the good diamonds on the steak, man, you got to chase those diamonds.
It was perfect. The steak was perfect. I couldn't complain about anything. And I was like, I really wanted to rip this. So I ended up having to shell out an extra 50 bones.
Oh, man.
On the guy.
Good.
He got me. My wife was pissed because she was like, you had to do it, didn't you, honey?
So let's get after these shrimp
let's do these shrimp and grits.
Talk about grits, Eric.
Look, shrimp and grits, a historical thing. I always believe being a sommelier and a certified special wine, for me, educating people on wine and beverage, you got to know the history first. You got to know the reasons why those wines and those beverages were created before you can really respect them, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so before we talk about shrimp and grits, I think it's important to know the history of the shrimp and grits menu, because once you understand it, then you can appreciate it. The history of shrimp and grits comes from Africa, Mozambique, Africa, the African slave trade, right? So we brought slaves, unfortunately, into the United States hundreds of years ago before my time. And they brought it in through Charleston, South Carolina, which is obviously a haven for seafood and shellfish in particular. Grits has always been a thing in the South. In America, the Indians were creating grits. Even in Africa, people were creating grits. So I think it would be interesting one day to maybe... They
were growing corn.
They were growing corn. Everybody's got corn and smashing it. Yep. And so because we had grits here and they had grits in Africa, that was an easy thing for the slaves to identify with, was the grits. And in Africa, there was also shellfish on the coast. And so they would put other types of shellfish, not just shrimp.
Oh, sure.
But when you roll into Charleston, there is an abundance of shrimp. If you've ever been to the Carolinas, we have shrimp.
All these ports, man.
We have oysters.
Sea access.
And so what quickly happened was that the slaves were already making grits. And and grits was also a ration to the blue collar worker. If you were traveling,
That's what's funny, man.
shelf
This is
stable,
poor people food.
it was poor people
That's
food.
what
So
you're getting at?
fishermen, when they were going out on their day journeys, they were rationed grits to take with them because all you need to cook grits is water and heat. And so your trappers who would venture off into the Appalachian Mountains to trap, they were rationed grits. So grits was easily available. And so the slaves would handpick throughout the day shellfish out of the waterways. And they would cook the shellfish and put it in their grits. And they were actually called breakfast grits for a long time. As the slaves moved around the United States, of course, the shrimp and grits followed them.
Sure.
Around the United States. So what was really cool and what I think is very interesting about shrimp and grits is it's one of the very first fusion cuisines in America, because when by the time it made all the way over to Louisiana, you had this whole French culture, you had this Caribbean culture, you had this Southern slave African culture, and they were creating these dishes. They were fusing. They were taking shrimp Creole, right, for instance, which is a Caribbean kind of deal mixed with French cuisine. It was a little bit spicy. So shrimp and grits in Louisiana, much different than shrimp and grits in Georgia, where maybe they were adding gravy because everybody was doing a lot of frying in the Georgia area.
A lot of peppers and onions too. You know, you'll see it.
Down in the French Quarter.
And And so, shrimp and grits is kind of one of those very first fusion cuisines that made it on the menu. It wasn't until the 80s, Bill Neal had a restaurant. Chef Bill Neal. Actually, Mr. Claiborne from the editorial New York Times, he was a big foodie writer.
Yeah, this guy's awesome.
He was an amazing guy. And anytime he wrote about a restaurant, it made headlines. It put him on the map. And he came down to the South to do kind of this summer retreat down in the South to figure out about Southern cuisine. It's kind of what we talked about. Like, he had the fried chicken places. He had the barbecue places.
He actually ended up enrolling in Duke and graduating.
That was Bill Neal.
Oh,
yes,
I'm sorry.
Bill Neal graduated from Duke.
Right
Claiborne doing his
Claiborne.
res. Yeah, I was talking about
My
Claiborne.
bad.
Follow me, Joe.
I'm following.
Drink your coffee, Joe.
That's right.
Drink your Jojo.
Jojo.
So anyway, when Claiborne landed in Crook's restaurant, which is actually in Raleigh at the time, Bill Neal's restaurant was called Crook's.
Crook's Corner.
Crook's Corner. He realized very quickly, like you, that he was taking all the Southern cuisines. And actually, one of my favorite quotes from Bill Neal, Bill Neal's dead now, but before he had passed, one of his quotes was, just because you're making fine comfort Southern food doesn't mean it has to suck. Just because you're making chicken and dumplings, just because you're making fried chicken, it doesn't have to suck.
Well, it's just, it gets associated with having a lot of fat in it. We use bacon and pork products in a lot of things, and obviously
Southern cooking.
It's not the best for your heart, but it tastes delicious, just like butter. I mean, everything in France, they get mad, I put bacon in everything. And that's just, it's my style of cooking. And the time I spent in France, I was able to put that in with my Southern style cuisine and come up with just a little mix mesh between the two that's just perfect.
Which is kind of what Bill Neal exactly did, because he was a French trained chef.
Well.
And then he spent a lot of time actually in Louisiana. And so when he ran a restaurant, it was funny because one of the things that I had read about Bill Neal was that he was saying that our kitchen, yes, we stick to fine kitchen cuisine, but I cook my favorites, but I'm not, it's like a laboratory. I'm not afraid to try new things. And I think your menu is the same way. You have your favorites on the menu, but also sometimes you release new things, like the egg roll that you just released.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of parallels between Chef Neal and you as a chef.
It's really funny. And you're from the same area too, which is why when I asked you about Bill Neal and you weren't familiar with him, I was like, it's so crazy because it's like you guys could have been brothers.
I want to pay him a little bit of homage, Chef Neal. He was a 34-year-old Duke graduate, right? And he made what I would consider to be an indelible mark on the culinary scene down here. Like back in I'm looking at my notes, 87, I believe, late 80s, almost 90. He got, like you said, the editor of the New York Times, or one of the head food writers, to write about him. And back then we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have this other bullshit.
Which, by the way, Manning's TikTok is fire,
line, right?
Manning's TikTok is fire.
Really?
Let me just interrupt you. Manning's has a TikTok. What restaurant has a TikTok?
I might need to download that Spy app and try to look at him.
Oh man.
Anyways, that's another podcast on
right here, man.
Another
Shrimp
channel.
Yeah. Bring that right over here.
We're talking about it right now.
Heck yeah.
Look
Beautiful.
There we are.
Ooh,
Yeah,
There you
goodness
go.
gracious.
Hey, will you bring us a plate with 3 spoons?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Let me
Little
do my,
side plates
Let me
would be
do my
great, too.
foodie picture. Oh my gosh.
He's always got to do a foodie picture. Well, Bill Neal actually was one of the first people to ever coin shrimp and grits. Before that, it was called breakfast shrimp.
Breakfast
and that
shrimp.
was what it was Southern cuisine passed down obviously by slave culture, and it had moved all through the South. Everybody was eating it, and Bill Neal actually had it on his menu as shrimp and grits. And when Claiborne came down here to write about Bill Neal's restaurant, he said, "What is this shrimp and grits? Let me try that." And he tried it, and Bill Neal was very passionate about his grits, as you are too.
Right.
And so he starts explaining the shrimp and grits. Well, the editor was like, well, I've seen the barbecue ribs, right? I've been in the South writing for a little while because he did a whole summer down here. So he'd written about the ribs. He had written about the fried chicken, but he had never written about shrimp and grits. So nobody had. So he writes it. Overnight, it was like viral, even though we didn't have viral capabilities back then. Overnight, it started going on Southern menus as shrimp and grits. And a lot of the African American culture was like, man, we've been calling this breakfast shrimp forever. Like shrimp and grits is nothing new.
Right.
And all of a sudden, these small African American owned restaurants they really started saying like, no, this is how you make breakfast grits. This is how you make shrimp and grits. And all of a sudden we have shrimp and grits of almost every simple style. We have the French style where you can swirl preserves and blue cheese into them and make them really sweet and different. And then we have like a more savory style, which is what you do. A very Southern style. What was your motivation? Because you use gravy on your shrimp and grits.
This is a recipe we came up with at Debadu's Country Club. This is in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. And I was doing my internship with Johnson & Wales University at the time. And it was veal stock reduction and just some country ham, caramelized onion.
Man.
It's what we had to work with that day. We were doing a wedding, and that's what they wanted. And this was the ending product. And when I tasted it, man, I was just like, it's so simple.
Getting moist.
But it was so good. And I mean, it really needed nothing. And even with the gravy, the shrimp will still be able to be highlighted. And you don't want to cover up the shrimp. And this way I felt like shrimp they both stood out. The original grits and gravy dish that I did used to have a fried dove on it. I was an avid dove hunter for a long time, and still am. I just purchased a farm in Lumberton, North Carolina. And
there you go, brother.
So
you put dove?
No, that's why that's my favorite as a personal. Right. It wasn't on the menu.
Sure.
I was just where it came up, man. And but this is the gravy that I use, and I just I do one with peppers and onions and andouille sausage as well. But this is by far my favorite version.
So the final thing I'll say about Chef Bill Neal parlays into what you are all about, man. And he said, although we're fine dining, it doesn't have to be perfect every time. I should rephrase that. It's perfect. It doesn't have to be the same every time. And albeit all the times that I've come to Mannings, everything is like a resemblance of something from before. But like, you've got the technique in there, but the passion goes to every different plate, even though it's not always the same. And like, there's a parallel, and it was really cool to do the research for this podcast about Bill Neal. And then, like, as I'm getting to learn about you and your food, it's totally what you're all about, isn't it, man?
Oh, man.
Where do you get your grits?
Grits right now coming out of Pauline, South Carolina. Colonial Milling is the company. He's doing a great job. It's a husband and wife combo. I talked to him this morning. He was actually lost some corn in Zeta that came through, the remnants of Zeta. So it blew down some early corn. So he'll probably
Zeta was a hurricane, or like a bad storm.
Yeah, a bad storm that came through. So it knocked a little bit of his crop down before it was dry. So he's actually out there combining this morning, hopefully to be able to salvage some of that product. And
I hope he works.
But I called him and told him I was doing this podcast and I was going to give him a shout out. So he was pretty stoked.
And so you told me that like they literally like send you video of them milling.
Oh
the
yeah,
grits
man!
and putting it in a bag.
Exactly. I mean, just let me know. And it's each one has got a batch number on it, and I mean, it's amazing the time that he takes to put into each bag, and it shows. I feel like he
cares about every bag.
I mean, it's just like, and it's so appreciative. When I do my order every week, he's always the one calling.
Let me ask you this: so, like, me as a chef, when I purchase products like that, whereas if I go and buy some like mass brand GMO product, I can tell the difference. If you buy a good product, can you these grits are on fire, man. They're the quality of them is so good. So like, do you agree that like when you buy good stuff?
Oh, it just transposes over. The biggest thing when I opened up, that was the biggest nerve-wracking thing that all owners of restaurants, if they start going for that, looking at that price tag, man, it'll get you every time. you got to go balls to the wall, man. Just worry about finding the product.
Only the good
Don't worry
product,
about
yeah.
the money. I mean, don't worry. If you cook it, they will come, man. You know, if once they get it, they get it. I mean, and some people that have that heart don't make it. You know, the sad thing is, but you're not exposing yourself to the right people. You know, you just have to, you just got to believe, man.
Absolutely.
Continue to be creative. This parallels so perfectly with what Bill Neal said is that just because it's simple, it doesn't have to suck.
Exactly.
Shrimp
man.
and grits on the face is a very simple dish, right? Cooking grits is not hard to do. And we're going to tell you how to cook grits. And we're going to talk to Howard about cooking grits. Cooking shrimp is not hard. But what you have done is you have gone one step and above, right? So you've made grits, and then you have made a gravy, and then you have made shrimp. And so each one of those you've made perfectly. And therefore, it's not so simple anymore. Like now we have a complex dish with very simple things. Let's start with the grits.
Okay.
How do you cook the grits? How do you cook
I
your
add
grits?
cream and butter. A lot of people just want to know how to get so nice and creamy. Obviously, it's real simple. It's cream.
Super
you know,
easy.
I mean, just water, pound of butter, 2 quarts of cream. Throw it in a big pot. Let it get to simmering and stir in the grits. I actually showed you stirring them in.
Yes, sir. Took some video of it.
Nothing to it. The biggest thing is stir. You know, when you put them in there, you got to stir. And
Constant.
Burnt grits are the
constantly.
worst.
Oh,
You burn them,
grits
you're done.
or I mean, just
So with
and then
that-
drop that heat down. Some people like tops. Some people don't. You know, whatever.
What's
So
your
you
opinion
guys
on
stay
that?
over about like,
I don't use a top in the morning because I got the whisk stuck in there, so I'm stirring all the time.
Right,
are you at
yeah,
about
so-
medium heat?
Now, if I was preparing something at the house for a smaller
it-
batch, I'd have a lid on there just
So
for.
for the people who don't know, when you're cooking grits, because we have a lot of like northern listeners,
Oh, yeah,
that
I'm
maybe
sure.
have never even seen grits before.
What in the?
Let's talk about what
I know,
grits
I
are
know.
real quick. I think that's probably important, and then we talk about how.
Well, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
How
the grits
clueless
first.
So,
everybody else
You
is
know,
on
there's
grits.
grits, there's polenta, there's cream of wheat, and they're all pretty similar. But so grits in this case, they're just ground corn kernels, right?
Correct.
But what is polenta? Polenta is Italian grits, right? And then the difference is that the grits are made from white corn or hominy, which polenta is then made from yellow corn. So in a pinch, you can substitute polenta for grits and vice versa. But I mean, grits are grits. And in my opinion, they're my favorite. They're the best. Polenta has a coarser texture, and your results are going to be affected if you're using polenta instead of grits. And then cream of wheat that I just referenced is made from ground kernels of wheat. And they look slightly similar, and they're typically prepared in a similar way. But
That guy always looks so happy on the box. You just want to eat it.
the Quaker.
Oh man, no, that wasn't Quaker. He's just this little guy that had been cooking it all day. You could tell, and he was just a smiling.
yeah, I got it. I
Traditional.
got it.
Yeah.
So the textures of the two products are quite different when they're done. You know, you got the 3 products. You know, we got grits, polenta, and cream of wheat. But in this case, we're talking about grits, right? So what's your favorite? Let's talk about your favorite style of how you cook your grits here, because I just tasted them. I've got the gravy. I've got your seasonings in there. I want you to talk about how you did that.
Like I said, I mean, it just went together. Numerous ones that we had worked on, but I was really fortunate to find this. I mean, you know, I was second year culinary school, and just was what we had to work with. And I was wedding coordinator for that event that day, and they had also given me responsibility for a little beach hut that I just ran,
Wow.
little burgers and whatnot. You had to do the cash on that at the end of the day, and it was just all part of your schooling.
Sure.
You know, and it was just this little lady. She was sitting over there. She would peel shrimp all day. I mean, that's just what she did. She just was so good at it. Like, she could out-peel anybody, man. And we did a couple of, like, reductions with shrimp shells and made some shrimp stock. And we did different things. And this was literally, we just had the onions and the ham on the big griddle going together. And the smell started going good.
I'll taste the ham in there.
And
I'm chewing it right now.
the chef at the time was over there, and he was working on just the brown gravy, and added a little veal stock in there, and it was pretty much like a lunch that we made, for ourselves, just something quick, and it just worked out so beautifully.
So
man.
this is actually part of your history as learning to be a chef then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's solid, man. That's
Which,
straight up
when
solid.
you're making shrimp and grits, the cool thing about shrimp and grits is that wherever you're at in the world is what you have to work with, and that's how it's going to influence the shrimp and grits, right? So when you go to Louisiana, right, a lot of hot sauce, a lot of Creole, a lot of spices, a lot of spiciness, and so
absolutely.
That's what they had to cook with back then,
right?
Not having a lot of money. Whereas if you come over here to Charleston or over into the Carolinas, you have a lot of gravy around, right? So squirrels create a great squirrel gravy, venison, all these different things. That we can make gravy from, obviously a lot of pig, right? A lot of pork. And so it's fascinating that almost like wine, your shrimp and grits are kind of indicative to the region of the South where you're
absolutely.
at. And that's phenomenal. But for cooking grits, I think the main important thing to take from that is you have to stir them, right? So, little
salt too, but to start with. Don't try to season them after. Little salt in the water ahead of time.
To get into it.
Yeah, you really wanted to get into the corn and go ahead and get that flavor. Don't over salt it because obviously you can't take out. You can do initial salting at the end, but a nice little pinch to start with. Very safe.
I've been cooking grits now for about 3 weeks in prep of the show. I've made every style. I've done French style cooking of the grits, Louisiana style cooking of the grits, North Carolina style, trying to replicate what you have here. Not even close what I make compared to what you do.
I call this a Charleston style. I picked this whole style up down in Charleston, just the cream and the butter.
It's like taking a
people
trip,
say,
man.
what's Charleston style grits? And that's just cream and butter, just fancy stuff. I mean, that's just what they were accustomed to down there. And being at the port, it took advantage of being able to have lots of.
So when we were doing the research for this, Eric stumbled across something, and he was like, dude, have you ever heard about people cooking with the brackish water, the saline, and like where a river meets a ocean body?
Right.
You ever heard of that?
No.
Yeah, man.
So there, being that if you go to Louisiana, not so much New Orleans, but just in that area, that whole area.
Well, I mean, you got it readily available.
Yeah,
and
they were
boiling
brackish
it. So, I mean,
water
what's
right
you going to really...
Exactly,
So
man.
they were cooking their grits in brackish water, which I thought is pretty cool.
You don't have
Then
to
it gets
even
like a
friggin'
salty.
salt them at that point. You're
Right.
just...
A lot of the like health professionals are like, oh my gosh, you can't cook with that. But I mean, like you said, Howard, you're boiling it out, right? And like, ironically, seawater actually averages about like 3.5% salinity. So that's pretty low. I mean, you're still going to have to season it. It's not going to be like this huge amount that people think, Concentrated salt ranges in 5 to 7%. So in regards to conspiracy cuisine, I'd say 3.5 to 5%. It's safe to cook with it if you want to. And in fact, it's picking up in Spain right now. They're selling it on a market level of like brackish water in a box, so people are like seasoning with it. Like we can go get like chicken stock and stuff like
They'll
that.
buy anything, man.
Yeah, I mean,
you sell anything.
there's probably some Spaniard out there.
Give me another pail.
He's probably laughing his ass off at it. He's like, give me another bucket of the salt water. I'm selling this shit for $18.99 on it. Like, it's pretty ridiculous, but I mean, people are doing it.
Yeah. Another dish that this gravy goes super duper well with, man, is a chicken livers. And
Ooh,
I just had them bring them out, man. They were behind that table. Can you reach them?
Yeah,
right
I
there?
can reach it.
Slide this one over here.
My gosh.
What is this, Howard?
Now now you can
Yes.
serve this on toast, which is the way I've done it here. This can also be done over rice or grits. I love it over grits. And this is just a salt and pepper, buttermilk drenched seasoned flour chicken liver. So fried for about 3 minutes, then let rest. And then it goes into a hot saute pan that has about a cup and a half of the country ham caramelized onion gravy in
gosh.
it. And then they just sort of get tossed in there gently to the crispiness just gets coated and then right onto the toast at that point. And
So a lot of our listeners are what we call home foodies, right? We
Right,
talked
right.
about scene foodies, being at a restaurant, judging, analyzing, having a good time, right? Our home foodies are guys that like to cook at home and like to explore. And that can be any level of cook. They're not chefs. They're not classically trained.
I just wish everybody would get out there and cook, man, because I mean it's just so
It changes the world, man. Changes your life.
It just makes you...
When you can cook.
People have gotten used to just getting crap when you go out to eat, man.
Right.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, it's like, you might as well not go
can't
out
wait.
anymore.
I'm getting into this.
Yeah,
boys.
jump on it. Jump
Fuck you
on it.
guys.
Give us a pointer, like when you're frying these chicken livers. What would be a pointer that you would give to somebody at home who is wanting to be a foodie, who may have never even fried a chicken liver, Walk us through going to get the chicken liver, where they're going to get it from, how are they going to fry it.
Fuck, hold on, let me just
Lowe's
talk-
right
this
here
is
on
amazing.
Lowe's right here on Highway 70, man.
Straight up
Has
amazing.
them. You can get fresh or typically frozen. Swanson usually gets them. Let them slack out in the refrigerator. Don't try to run them under cool water or anything, even though that's allowed. Just because if it was to hit the product, it could take the flavor away and discolor your liver. Frying obviously is dangerous, so you want to be careful. First thing you want to do is get a thermometer that you can test your grease out with.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Once you secure your livers from whatever local grocery store, whether, like I said, the fresh or frozen section, you're typically going to find them, and they're inexpensive. Livers
Super
and gizzards.
cheap.
They are. Livers and gizzards have been around for a long time. Obviously, byproducts of the chicken. And
This is so southern, by the way.
yeah, the liver is just so much smoother, a lot more easier to eat. If you have any kind of dental problems, anything like that. Obviously, gizzards aren't going to be the way.
Gizzards are a little more
A
chewy.
little chewy. So, but this just works great. This can be spread onto toast. Like almost a pate.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the whole
Man,
thing.
I love the flavor
It almost
of livers.
it is a fried pate
It
in my
tastes like
mouth.
That's
so
what it
the-
tastes like.
Did you,
literally,
you,
it's what
did you get that when I was eating it? Like I was like, dang, this is like a pate. It's like it's almost like all the
This is a
elements of a pate
sommelier's
in
dream. Honestly, I like.
Really?
I can just all the wines in my brain that I would love to pair with this. This is a very fun.
Hell yeah, bro! This is
This is a
amazing.
very
man.
fun
This is
pairing.
amazing.
And again, something so easy, right? Like livers. My mom grew up homeless with 9 brothers and sisters, completely homeless, and their diet was the same. And she cooked for me and my family, my brother and my dad. She cooked for us very similar to the way she was raised, and so we had fried liver,
Yeah.
fried gizzard. We had grits every morning. Sometimes, if we got lucky, we'd get cream of wheat in the wintertime. But
Fancy
during the
pants.
summer, we always had grits. And this though right here is it's so much further. Like you've gone so far above and beyond than what regular liver is. So for me, whenever I think about fried liver, I think about my mom's cooking, which was not overly complex and great. And I wouldn't order it in a restaurant because that's what's in my brain. But when I taste this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a delicacy. This is like something that needs to go with like a very fine wine.
Me
and
as a chef and you as a sommelier, like you can make a whole lot out of nothing, And like in this circumstance, it's a cheap like cents type of ingredient, but the flavor is world class. World class. This is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What is your way of frying it? Like, is there
So
particular...
the liver goes directly into buttermilk, just straight buttermilk, a little pinch of salt and
Can
pepper.
you explain why you do that with the buttermilk?
Buttermilk's just going to remove any
thing
of
for
the
listeners.
blood from the liver. It's also,
sir.
you can let them soak in there. It can remove any kind of gaminess or flavor like that. I really just like to give it a nice rinse off and make it adhere to the flour a little better.
Okay.
Any kind of rule of thumb for fried chicken or anything to do with the damn chicken, you need to have salt, black pepper, and cayenne pepper.
Love it.
And that's just your seasoned flour, your basic seasoned flour. Needs to have those 3 things in it. If you're frying chicken, for instance, other like a liver, you just want to salt and pepper and cayenne onto the actual chicken skin itself. You know what I mean? But this dish, right into the seasoned flour after the buttermilk, right into the grease. 335 to 350 degree grease is what you're looking for. You don't want anything higher than that.
That's
you
dangerous.
Want them, well, one, they'll pop on you. They do have air
Bite
pockets
you.
in them, and
learned
but you just
about
don't
that.
want them to get too dark too quick. You want them to be able to cook through just like anything. And I found 2.5, 3 minutes is about perfect, and I just sit them up,
These are literally perfect, Howard.
let them
I'm not
rest.
just boosting you up, man.
I hear you,
because
man.
we're here.
And you want them to
Like,
be.
I
You don't
like
want them to be.
them.
You want them to be crispy. Like even though they've coated in that gravy, you still getting a little crunch in there.
And there's like a juxtaposition of textures. You've got the crunch, you've got the smoothness of the interior of the liver itself, and then you've got the toast that you serve it on. It's
Actually, tasting the...
like a symphony of
It
flavors.
is.
man.
And when you add the toast, the good bread...
Oh my gosh,
that just
man.
pairs so well
Yeah.
with the liver. Oh my gosh, it's a game changer. Because I was eating the liver without the bread, and I literally just took a bite where I combined the two for the first time.
Okay,
and
fine.
it is
Tear it off. Rip it up.
It is a game changer.
But now you got the soggy bread. It's just like that favorite bite of your French
Another awesome element,
French
man.
onion soup. You know what I mean? Right at the bottom of the bowl.
Dude, it is phenomenal.
I put my praise hands up at this moment for the listeners. Like, it's so good.
My gosh.
Guys,
Good job,
but all
man.
you got to do, come right on down 406 East Main
That's
Street,
right.
Clayton, North Carolina. We're here 6 days a week, closed on Tuesday.
Conspiracy Cuisine.
And which I always think is
endorses
funny
you, brother.
because everybody on Main Street's closed on Monday. And you were just like,
Nah,
okay,
fuck
since
it.
everybody's closed on Monday, I'll be closed on Tuesday.
Well, a lot of people say, you know, why you do that, and it's just ridiculous to close on Mondays because you got everybody finishing up. Everybody's worn out from the weekend. They're just concerned on getting out. You know, are they doing the job that you want them to be doing?
Sure.
Whereas Sunday, if you make sure you take a little extra time, close up shop, Monday, get all your deliveries in, prep everything up, get it just how you want it, shut down on Tuesday, you come back Wednesday,
my
there's
gosh.
nothing to do. You're ready to go. Whereas, you know, if I close on Monday, I come in Tuesday, open up, don't have lettuce, you're coming in, you're ordering stuff.
Sure.
Oh, sir, I'm out of romaine, I'm sorry for your... You
Yeah.
don't want to hear that
Can't
shit.
get it.
You don't
Where
want
did
that
you learn
shit.
that? Was that something you came up with
Yeah, that's
just from
just
being in the
probably
industry?
trial and error,
That's
right?
just, yeah, that just makes sense.
That is brilliant.
You got
Yeah.
burned once, and you were like, I'm going to reconstruct and get it right.
So that's the reasoning for that. And it's just to see the businesses around the area that have closed on Tuesday just because I'm closed on Tuesday is hilarious. It just drives me. It's so funny for me.
Well, so your restaurant, the attention to detail in your restaurant is phenomenal, right? So,
Yes.
like, it feels good when you come in. It looks classy. It looks totally different from when you're in Clayton, North Carolina. And I've preached on this before that when you're going to a restaurant or you're going to a bar, you want to be transformed from where you're at. So, like, if I go to Coquette in North Hills, like, I want to feel like I'm in France. I don't want to feel like I'm in North Hills, Raleigh. I want to feel like I'm in France. That's why I'm going to a French restaurant.
That's
If I
right.
go to an Italian restaurant, I want to feel
Italy.
like I'm in Italy. When I come here to this one, I feel like I'm
Home.
home.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
and I
Yes,
feel
sir.
good, like in a very good home,
Good point.
in a comforting home, warm, welcoming. The culture of your staff it's something that
It's family. You know, that's the
It's
one thing that I know.
crazy.
Howard hadn't met me before we did this. I met him yesterday. We did some pre-podcast stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been here a number of times. And the one thing that I always say with my wife and family is like, you know, this is a good family spot. But at the same time, we're being provided with like world class. Like, dude knows what he's doing with food. And
So-
his staff knows what they're doing. But they treat you like family.
in the food, right? Very family oriented, very warm food. But the liver, the grits, incredible. One of the other things I thought that was very interesting, and I had to talk about it on this podcast. I had to bring it up.
Get after it.
I love creme brulee, one of my favorite desserts. I finish most meals when I go out with creme brulee. I don't know why. I enjoy it. I think it's a very simple yet very complex dish. It's hard to get right.
I love it myself, I tell
The
you.
one pet peeve I've always had in my life
It's
is
on
that
your
there's
menu.
never enough creme brulee for dessert. And I'll order two because I'm a
That's
because
savage,
I'm a
right?
piece of
He
shit.
wants that crispy crunch.
And I want that. When I get creme brulee,
Oh, you
here,
embrace debauchery. You're
your
like, fuck it,
creme
you'll have
brulee-
one, I'll have two.
Your creme brulee is the biggest creme brulee I've ever had in my life.
Well, you just don't want to run out, I'm telling you. And it's one of those things, like you said, it's deep. You know, you stick
Yeah.
the spoon in and the spoon disappears
You
instead
wanna
of just like
feel
a
it.
quarter of the fucking spoon just not even going in there. Tink. You get a little crust. Nah, man,
No.
you got to have
Right.
that deep.
Joe, reach over there and grab that creme brulee. I saw him bring it out. Listen, I'm a creme brulee nut. All right. One thing before we crack into this creme brulee, I want to talk
Hold
about.
on, let's talk about my anxiety of bringing this from over
man.
there to here.
Look
What
at
if
it.
I
Oh,
dropped
guys, I
it?
wish
What would
you
you
could
guys
see this-
do? You'd be
this
like,
crust.
ah!
It's friggin' awesome, man.
Look at that. I gotta take a
Look
picture.
at that
of it.
brulee on the top, man.
Yeah.
Ah!
Part of being a foodie, a food nerd, is you always take a picture of your food.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's-
We're like full
we're like
fucking
full-
food dork right
we're-
now, man. This is
we're always
amazing.
food dork. It's
Yes.
phenomenal. What the cool thing about Southern cuisine, when you're talking about creme brulee, the shrimp and grits, even the liver that we just had with the gravy. We talk about things that are simple, right? We want to keep things simple, Big Bird of Cookie Monster, but it doesn't mean it has to suck.
No.
Okay. So
Right.
we have these simple dishes that are
The
obviously
simplest
complex
things
that we've
are
already talked
oftentimes
about.
the best.
So let's keep it simple with the wine, but let's not suck with the wine, right? It would be
Okay.
very easy to pair this with Chardonnay and be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, white wine, go to the store and buy Chardonnay, be
Right.
done with it, right? But let's step that game up because you have stepped the game up with the course. I think Prosecco is one of those oddball
man, that
wines.
fresh
Yes,
contrast.
it's one of those oddball things that you wouldn't think of when you do this. But the little subtle sweetness of Prosecco it pairs so well with the gravy.
Yes.
It cuts, it's almost kind of like, when we talk about sweet and savory, and Prosecco is not overtly sweet, right? Like, but it's just enough sweetness that pairs well with the savoriness of the gravy, and Prosecco also goes very well with creme brulee as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're going to a restaurant and you don't want to buy a bottle of wine for each dish, maybe for the table. That would get kind of expensive. We could just go with
It'd be
one
a good
bottle.
time, though.
It would be a great
That'd
time.
be a good
And
time.
I'm not saying you shouldn't do that.
like if you want to do that, do it.
But if
brother.
you're trying to ball on a budget,
Ball around the budget.
you grab one bottle of Prosecco. And that
Which
would
is enough.
that would go with this whole meal,
Yeah.
and even if you wanted to open up with the crab cakes, which is one of my favorite things that Howard has to offer, or the fried green tomatoes.
You're talking about
Oh
a
my
juxtaposition
God.
of flavors here. As like
It'll
us
carry
as
the weight.
chefs, and then you as the somm. Like everything should it should be like a symphony, like I said earlier, right? So like if he's got the Prosecco and we've got these livers, we've got these shrimp and grits, we've got this beautiful creme brulee. That Prosecco, every time you put something in your mouth when you're eating,
changes.
it should be boom, something new, and then it should also play together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, the savory, sweet aspect of this really goes nice with my Prosecco.
I think a Prosecco carrying the weight of this meal is pretty fun. It's not oftentimes that you can sit down and have a 3-course meal, a 2-course meal,
Right.
and have one wine that would go with everything. This is
Right.
one of those things that you could actually do that with kind of the recipe, the menu that we have chosen for us for our podcast today. The Prosecco would actually carry the weight through the entire meal. Going back to being foodies and food nerds and educating, like people that really like to cook at home, our homies, give us a tip on making creme brulee. What is a insider tip of making creme brulee great?
A lot of people just get nervous making
Yeah.
it just because it seems like
sounds fancy.
It does, and
brulee.
you take a couple of egg yolks. You whisk some sugar in it together till the color changes to a light yellow.
Sure.
Your cream's warming up on the stove. While that's going, a couple split vanilla beans in there.
Oh my gosh.
Then once that comes to just a simmer, not a boil.
So are you using fresh or like whole vanilla beans when you're doing
Yeah,
this?
yeah, Madagascar.
Have to do it.
Yeah. Cobra is the company that packages mine
Nice.
right now. Yeah. And you split those, scrape them down in, and I put the whole bean in there too, and just get a good whisk on that cream and get those little pieces broken up in there and the little specks, like when you open
It's beautiful.
the Breyers vanilla bean ice cream. You remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Who doesn't
Those
remember that?
flex. You're
Oh,
like,
man.
yeah, I got
So,
the good one.
Then you just pour that you strain that right in to the egg mixture that you have with the sugar and the yolks, and just temper it right in. And then at that point, you have to cool that mixture just a little bit. You don't
Okay.
want to go right into making the brulees. But at that point, once that mixture's cool, it would go into your dish that you've chosen to use, into a water bath covered 3/4 of the way
Yes,
up.
sir.
And you're going to go for about an hour and 10 minutes, depending on your oven.
Good things are worth waiting for.
They
guys.
really are, and then they have to minimum of 4 hours in the refrigerator. I suggest a full 12 hours.
Okay.
But
That way you know it's good, right?
it's set. Yeah, and the colder that custard is, the harder your brulee crust is going to be. I mean, people, but if you try to get antsy and you cook it while your mixture's hot, you'll end up with a souffle. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much.
It'll come up out of the actual ramekin that you
Yeah,
put it
it
in.
won't. The molecules don't act.
It's
the same.
beautiful. I've got to tell you, Chef Howard, it looks absolutely beautiful.
It's perfect. And my favorite part
It's the crack.
is
The crack.
right?
The crack here.
Yeah, Eric's a crackhead, guys.
Yeah.
No, he's really not.
Oh my god. Oh man,
That's beautiful, man.
Howard,
And presentation and flavor.
it's always that way, not just
Absolutely
because
fantastic.
we're sitting at a table and they're bringing
Yeah.
it. It's every time I've ever been here, the presentation is impeccable. Everything about this place is great. But sometimes I've literally been in here with you rocking shorts and a t-shirt and a hat in this fine restaurant. Your waiting
I
staff
want
also does that.
everybody I want to feel
That
comfortable.
feels great. It feels
there's
so
a
cool.
3-piece suit sitting right beside you and I. We just came back from Wilmington, laid out on the beach. I mean, and that's the I say if you can get you to walk out of that door, and your main goal is to go find your best friend and bring them back here, I've accomplished my goal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Just want to be a fun place to come, man. Just come and sit at the bar and have a cocktail.
And it's
a
one of
glass
those
sweet
places.
tea.
I want to ask him. I want to
And
ask
meet
you some
people,
questions.
man.
We've gone full circle. You know, we did the grits thing. We can get back into that in a little bit if we want to, but I want to get back into your menu. But pre-podcast, Howard and I were hanging out and talking. And I was geeking out, chef geeking out with him. I'm like, man, I noticed your menu is different and unique, and you're an individual. You know, we've got these names on your menu, and each item has like its own like vibe. And when I'm reading it as a chef and a foodie, I'm like, this means something. Why does it mean something? And it's very relatable. You remember what you told me about?
Yeah.
Can you break that down again?
Well, it's just so much fun. To have names because, you know, you could potentially be ordering something with your name on it. You know, the Jennifer's filet, for instance.
Yeah.
There's tons of Jennifers out there.
Who?
The Henry's hand-cut ribeye. Hannah's chicken. You know, this is my son and my daughter. Blondie's beer battered onion rings is one of my Wheaton Terriers. You know, so it's fun.
Who's Jennifer?
Jennifer's my wife.
So you got the whole family.
Oh, man. I did. My mother, actually, I had Ginger's angel hair pasta.
That's amazing.
How about that? That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
And it's just fun. Cleveland cheese fries. You know, just bring in the local area.
Yeah,
Let
for
people,
listeners, Cleveland is a little like subset off of Clayton.
Yeah, so it's just fun. You know, we went through a bunch of names for the egg rolls. You know, I've got a pretty much a little menagerie at home, a small farm. And Felicia's my pig, and I just wanted to do Felicia's.
Amazing pig name.
Oh, man, bye, Felicia. And so...
Literally, bye, Felicia. Come here. Let me put your fat ass in the oven.
Oh, man, she is going to taste so delicious one day, I tell you.
Hey, call me when you do
Yeah,
that.
oh,
I won't
yeah,
even
we
feel
will.
sorry about it.
No, man, we
Kill that
won't. We
bitch.
won't. That's right. We're just going to
I'm
crisp her
sorry,
ass up.
Pepita.
Sorry, Felicia. Sorry. But she, it's just so much fun having names with stuff, you know, and ended up being Kevin's crispy ribeye egg rolls. But
Beautiful.
Felicia was in the running, man, I tell you.
So when you
Is
do,
Felicia going to make a debut?
I not on this menu as of right now. So we've got 9
This is
menu
terrible.
items
If
that
you
just
really
made
love
the
Felicia,
cut. Yeah.
if you love her, I'm sorry.
I do love you, Felicia. That's why I feed you so much. Crab cake, ribeyes, cheesecake.
Stop, really?
Oh, man.
They'll eat anything. People eat anything, man.
She gets so spoiled. Every day, you know, there's a big bin down there right now just
I feel
full of just
fucking
fresh
awful right now.
romaine, you know,
terrible,
zucchini
man.
tops, a piece of cheesecake.
still eat her, though.
Oh, man. She is going to be so delicious. I can't even imagine what she tastes like. She's a cooney pig, which is Hawaiian for plump.
Cool.
And she is about 300 easy.
Oh,
right
my
now.
gosh.
No
Oh,
way.
dude, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
come
my
on
God.
now, Felicia.
So I had this unnamed place. I worked at this place up in the Philly area, and we did like portable like 3-star, and we would go into like we would do catering, and like each event was like 15 to like 500,000 depending on. So like that's the type of caliber we work in. And this particular unnamed toilet and tissue paper company owners had a pet. I don't know what kind of pig he was, but his name was Hammy. And he was close to 500 pounds, man.
God.
And he would come and sit like a dog. We'd be like, Hammy, come here. We'd be prepping, and like we'd make all the horrible chef jokes about how delicious and plump he is. And Hammy, come sit. And he would sit and be like, and like, he was awesome. And I feel really bad about talking about Felicia, man.
That's all right. She'll be good.
Your wine list, your wine list is also probably the better wine list in Clayton. It's got to be the best wine list in Clayton.
Oh, yeah.
I saw everything from a Brunello di Montalcino from Africa to you've got all sorts of stuff on that menu.
Got some really nice. I mean, just regular everyday wines that you're going to adore that you can't get locally, and then you got your Camus Reserve,
Yeah.
Opus
Yeah.
1. You know, a lot of people can't even get Opus 1, but I want them to have the opportunity to try that kind of stuff.
You've got the right mix of local beer, local distilled spirits. But you also have a fantastic bourbon and whiskey collection going as well. And it's pretty fun to hear you talk about it passionately because I know you don't really drink a lot.
Well, the first 30 years, I'd let them have it now.
Okay.
I just recently, this is the last 3 years that I've sort of cut back just for weights and everything.
Right.
I was
Yeah,
I was
health,
300
all that.
pounds, man.
What?
Oh,
Get
my
the hell
God.
out of here,
No
man.
way.
Swear to God, I got pictures. We can do the transformation pictures.
Oh
I
my
went
God.
298 head the size of a fucking basketball down to $160.
That's a lot of meat on your frame,
Oh my
man.
God, me and Felicia might have been fucking
I
cousins.
know. I was
Oh
gonna
my-
say,
I'm
get
telling
ready to cook your
shit.
ass up like
Oh,
Felicia.
size 40, and I'm
Oh my
at 29 right now.
No, yeah, I was gonna say you were tiny.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
never meant to be that size, and just
I bet you feel like a completely
oh my
different
God,
human
I mean,
being
it's
right
just
now.
shedded the whole person.
I might have cooked your ass if I met you then.
That's why they always do the never trust a skinny chef. So I have to pull out my fat pictures.
That's what I was about to
like
say.
I
was
can do
like,
it. I was close to 300 when I was full-time professional, but that's not. You have me beat, brother.
Yeah, dude, it was
Good job.
It was funny stuff.
Dude, oh my gosh, I would never imagine that in my life.
I know, man.
That's,
Like when I met him, I was like, "This dude's put together."
I feel
man.
like I need to do some work. But your bourbon, your whiskey collection, it's funny to hear you talk about it, right? I came in here doing some pre-prep studying stuff, and I don't know, you must have pulled out like 8 different stuff for me to smell that you just got in that you were just stoked to have.
Dude, it's just always
You get so
anytime-
excited.
It was just flavors, man, and just letting people taste new things and me tasting new things, and then it's just like now that I don't taste them, I can let y'all experience them, and then
Absolutely.
get your aspects on what it,
Yeah.
and I don't mind, sticking my finger in and tasting stuff.
Sure,
it's not
sure,
that
sure.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's just
as a
that
smart chef, you got to do
it's
that.
just you got to taste everything, smell it.
It's smelling everything. And you
Oh
were
my
you were
God.
like, Eric, smell this, smell this. Eric, smell this. Eric, smell this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I've smelled like 8 whiskeys this morning and
Amazing.
3 beers, and it's fun to watch you light up.
Eric
and-
probably tasted all of them though.
yeah,
we had to.
you know I
We
was.
had to.
I
mean,
cannot believe I even walked out of here. I was like, I'm just kidding.
that wasn't a walk.
It was a
kidding.
stumble. It was a stumble out for sure. Howard, dude, this is great. Let me ask you one
amazing,
more
man.
thing though. You on your food, like, what is the one thing for our listeners, for our foodies, for either whether they be a scene foodie where they go out and enjoy other people's cooking, or they're a home foodie, or they're kind of like Jeff, Puhak and I,
My name is Joe.
Joe,
Joe,
and
I
I.
have a name.
Well, you've been Puhak to me for like 8 years. It's weird to say your first
that's
name.
his Indian.
We're
name.
professionals now. We treat
I don't
each
like
other
to
with
say
value.
his first name. We both served in the police department together, and so he was
I
always
named-
Puhak and I was always Tansy.
I honestly didn't know your
but-
name first. It was you. Sorry, go ahead.
But for all of our scene foodies and all of our home foodies, what's something that you could give them? Like, what's one thing that you
Yeah.
would say, hey guys, like, this is what it's about?
Just don't be scared to try it, man. Everybody's so fucking scared to do anything anymore. And it's just do it.
Yeah.
Heat
Just
the
do it,
pan
man.
up, put the oil in it, and put the chicken in the pan. I mean, it's just seriously, don't be scared. Don't be intimidated by anything or anybody.
There's an unnamed podcaster out there that says all the time, he'll be like, just do it. And it's like strong voice, just do it.
That's right, baby.
And like, what do you have to lose? Like Eric and I were talking the other night, and he got
I
all
burnt
fired
grits
up
the other day.
He fucked grits up. He sent me pictures of a beautiful plating, and it's up on social media, and I was really proud of it. I put it everywhere, and he's like, but I burned it. I was like, but you fucking got after it, and you're stronger now as a chef, right?
Yeah,
Or as a cook.
I dumped the first batch of grits.
It stinks when you burn them.
They fucking
I'll tell you
stink,
what,
God.
man. There is nothing, and there's no redeeming it. Like, you can't add more cream. You can't add more.
Oh,
butter.
you're wasting
Like,
your money at
it's
this
gone.
fucking
It's
point.
gone.
It's gone.
Shit, you can't polish
And so yes, when you're cooking the grits,
Caramel
Do
sauce
not
and grits,
stop.
once they get fucked up, you can't
do not
fix
stop
it.
stirring those things.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Burnt caramel is like the worst.
Oh, it
dude.
stinks and get
It's terrible.
And
It's
get it on
terrible.
your skin.
done.
Have you done that? Have you gotten it on your skin?
Yeah,
I
I
don't cook
made
enough,
caramel
so-
sauce, and it's like lava. Like it'll go to your flesh.
Yeah.
It's probably the worst. Anyways. I
Well-
digress. So your message is just freaking get out there and do it, right?
Try new things.
Look, you weren't ever on any of our previous podcasts, right?
Oh, no.
So for
No.
our listeners, we've been telling you that. Get after it. Do it. You have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain, you know what I mean? Even if you mess up, when you're done, you learn from your mistake. And
That's
you're
right.
better. You're a better person, right?
That's right.
Howard, again, thank you for hosting us.
Yeah,
Anytime,
sure.
guys.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Y'all
Everyone
welcome
plays.
to
You
come
have
back and
been
play in the kitchen,
more
do
than
whatever you
hospitable.
want.
Please,
You've been more than
that'd be
hospitable to
amazing.
us. Again, our sponsors are Instill Distilling Company and
Good
whiskeywear.com.
rum,
WARE,
good glasses.
whiskeywear.com. And this is Joe and Eric with Conspiracy Cuisine.
Criminally delicious.
Criminally delicious.
Arrest me.
Until
you, guys.
next time, cheers.